When I was younger, I thought that I would work as a programmer or at least be somehow involved with the creation of video games. With this scenario in mind, when I reached the 10th grade and the use of a programmable calculator became mandatory, moving on to creating games for it was the next logical step. I didn't know it at the time, but I would never program anything else ever again in my life after that. Since you are here, why don't you comment, like, or even better, subscribe to the channel for more indie content like this one. It's a massive help. Thank you a lot. Without the existence of the internet and with school libraries not very interested to invest in content that went far beyond the scope of the curricular units, learning how to program was criminally difficult. Sure, I could see that it was possible to program a playable Super Mario for my calculator, but without really understanding how to interpret all those lines of code, I never managed to get to the point of creating animations. But it was very easy to extrapolate from one game to another how to create text-based games. Knowing how to do this and creating a tree structure in which each decision was followed by a new consequence and a new leap in the storyline, the next step was to create an entire adventure. Not just any adventure, but my own adventure, which I would then share with my colleagues. Gradually the game grew and my medieval knight was already defeating dragons, witches, vampires and some bandits, and at the same time was helping some beggars and did some favors for the king. I don't remember all the details nowadays, but the ultimate goal was to get close enough to the king to be able to usurp the throne. My story wasn't very original, nor was it very well written, nor did I have a name for it, but rarely I have had such a desire to expand my creative spirit as I did then, and I was very excited about the direction that the story was taking. My imagination kept offering me new directions and paths, a very complete structure of main and side quests. However, as the story progressed, I began to see the calculator's memory space decreasing alarmingly until it became incompatible with the small programs that necessarily had to be installed for the classes. Sadly for me, the story stopped halfway through. There was no satisfactory way to complete it on that very small memory slot after such a massive endeavor. Even with such a huge disappointment, creating the game allowed me to realize that text-based games were a great exercise for the imagination. They weren't games that I could see on my screen, but if I could somehow imagine what was going on, it would probably be fun. At the time it wasn't easy to find those games, but later, already at the university, I played The Hobbit on a ZX Spectrum emulator. The game was pretty well done, it had lots of options. It wasn't my adventure, of course, but it was a world that I could imagine and with that understand the options that were offered to me. The game didn't teach us anything, it was trial and error, but there were so many options that I never got bored by the story itself or the options I was given, but only for the fact that it was a text-based game that I never finished. After that, I never played another text-based game other than a football management simulator. It is with this scenario that I am confronted with Warsim, the Realm of Aslona. It's a text-based game. Extremely positive reviews on Steam with tags like adventure, RPG, strategy, open world, management, funny. This could be my game. Would I be able to get my imagination working again and live a new adventure? Well, no. Warsim, the Realm of Aslona, while providing us with tons of management options and having an exploration component, never provides us with a coherent story that we can follow. Of course, we can imagine the different characters or even the different interactions in this medieval world with knights, witches, bandits and goblins, but without that common link we are much more limited to the management game. But that doesn't make it a bad game, it just reduces a bit of what it could be done in a game that is still quite addictive, at least until we realize all tricks and start playing it like a tycoon. We can make Warsim, the Realm of Aslona, as difficult of a game as we want it to be, just by changing the initial conditions. From a small kingdom with no money to a large kingdom with a fortune, everything is possible, and it can become very difficult to achieve victory in the end, especially if we increase the difficulty and reduce the number of years in which the adventure takes place. Basically, there are two major components in the game, the economic component and the military component, with the second being very reliant on the first. In a kingdom essentially surrounded by enemies, it is commonplace to be attacked. We lose population and land, but as easy and inconsequential as being attacked is attacking. If, on the one hand, it is difficult for us to defend ourselves, it is also equally difficult for the enemies to defend themselves. With diplomacy very dependent on luck and without any meaningful way to change a faction's opinion towards us, the initial phase of the game depends a lot on these exchanges of land until randomness gives us a chance and we grow a little bit. If we play the game well, we will eliminate smaller factions. It's not worth going after the big ones at the beginning, we'll only annoy them and we increase the probability of them attacking us. It's better to start with the small ones, since any province is still a province. It doesn't matter where it came from, and after eliminating an entire faction, it's one less that we have to worry about. Sporadically they can leave refugees, but we can also deal with them if we want or need it to. The virtually non-existent strategic component on the military side leads to this ping-pong of battles. When we are attacked, we cannot mobilize our armies, so the population is dispersed across the different provinces we have. The more provinces we have, the more divided the population becomes. On the enemy's side, it is the same thing, which means that whoever attacks has the advantage of being able to lead an entire army against a fraction of the enemy's army. Of course, we cannot grow our army without having the money for it, and on the economic side of the game there is already more investment diversity, but we can see the economy as just that, a succession of investments that, depending on the options we choose from, may never be completely recovered. But the real picture is that it is always worth investing even if the return is small, as this becomes important in the long run, allowing the maintenance of more units in our army. It is precisely this economic component that mostly justifies the exploration that we can do, preventing it from being a total waste of time. As we explore, we can find several villages, monuments or business that we can buy and explore. Some villages allow trade caravans, which also bring some economic return. Over time, all these investments begin to accumulate, and when added to taxes, production, banking or exploitations of the fights in the Colosseum, they begin to bring more than enough return of investment for us to start facing all our enemies without fear, even when we are weaker than them. Warsim, the Realm of Aslona wasn't the game I was hoping for, but that doesn't make it a bad game. The extremely positive reviews it has on Steam are entirely deserved and justified. The game's biggest con is it is text-based, a genre that is lost in the most obscure meanders of the internet, shared on specific sites, often made in game engines dedicated to them. Maybe for the younger audience it can bring that curiosity effect. At least my son was a little incredulous when I explained to him that for a while it was games like these that we had to play. As an adventure game, it doesn't spark the imagination because it lacks a sensible storyline, and as a military or economical simulator, it lacks the depth of other specialized options. It's an interesting all-rounder for anyone interested in trying out the genre. Anyway, and since now I want to destroy every faction, I'll have to start a new save. See you next time, guys. Bye!